right, City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Alderman Sufferton. Here. Alderman Ravel. Here. Alderman Rainey. Here. Alderman Fleming.
Here.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Wynn. Here. Alderman Wilson. Here. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
All right, terrific. Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday, May 29th, 2018 Evanston City Council meeting. I know Alderman Ruth Simmons had a work conflict this evening and couldn't be here, but we have 8 of the council members here and a lot of folks out in the audience. So it's nice to see everybody. I know there's folks from home watching as well. I have a couple announcements. First off, a big thank you to the Evanston American Legion Post 42 and the William B. Snell VFW Post 7186 for putting on a very nice memorial and ceremony yesterday at Patriot Park to remember all of those that have sacrificed their lives so that we can all have the country that we have and the democracy that we have and we see in action every single Monday night here. So a big thank you to all of them and the couple hundred people that were at Patriot Plaza or Patriot Park yesterday morning. I'd like to just a big thank you because it's springtime now and we're approaching summer. All of the people in this community that volunteer with our young people, it's really pretty amazing. From soccer to lacrosse to baseball to softball, you name it. There are a tremendous number of volunteers. I got to see some of those folks in action. There was a big softball tournament at James Park this weekend. We had about 30 teams that were there. It was all girls softball, and so a big thank you to all the volunteers there, including Kelly Elwood, Andrew Porter, and Steve O'Connor. And also a big thank you to our Parks and Rec staff, particularly Stefan Walker and his crew. The fields, if you haven't been to James Park in a while, the fields looked amazing. So thank you. Also, for the girls, I did wear the pin you gave me, so thank you for this great express pin from the softball team. Two final announcements. Gun Violence Prevention Day, which we could certainly use more prevention of gun violence, right, in this community and in this country, is June 1st, and Wear Orange Day, which I mentioned the proclamation. I'll read a proclamation, will be June 2nd, okay, which is Saturday. There are organizers who are planning a rally down at Fountain Square. It's going to be on the new south side, that Fountain Square South Plaza. And just wore my orange tie again to remind everybody to wear orange and bring light to this big issue here and elsewhere. So that wraps up my announcements for today. City Manager, any city announcements? City Clerk, any announcements?
Yes, very quickly, just that the clerk's office will be hosting 2 events in the near future. They're small flyers outside of the council chamber. One is with Recorder Yarborough Property After Death Workshop, and that'll be on Thursday, June 14th, 2018, from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. here at the Civic Center. We may change the location to the Levy Senior Center. And then another on parliamentary procedure for the council, so how to adjourn before midnight is the title of the program, and it's learn how the Evanston City Council's rules of order, learn the Evanston City Council's rules of order and how it influences policy. We'll have parliamentarian Joan Bundy and myself discussing that, and that'll be Tuesday, June 26th from 5:30 to 9 p.m. There's a limited number of slots, so please sign up.
Great, and the best way to adjourn before midnight is to start the meetings at 8 o'clock. So we're off to a good start this evening, so hopefully we will adjourn before midnight. Next up, we've got public comment. Give me 1 second just to see how many folks we got here. Okay, we've got 23 people lined up or set up for public comment tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and give a minute 45 for each speaker. And if we all stick to our time, that should allow us to wrap up. One comment, as always, let me just say, I appreciate people being respectful and civil. It's okay to have disagreements. Let's just do it in a professional manner. And I appreciate people keeping that in mind. Also, there have been a couple comments in the past, so just so everybody understands. I have said in the past that you can't relieve your time to another speaker. And there's no rule in the City Council rules that say that. The Rules Committee will be meeting, and we can have a conversation about that. And just so everybody understands, my rationale is, we have lots of different issues, and, I could have a whole group of 10 people say, okay, we're all going to sign up, and then we're all going to give our time to just one speaker, and then public comment can basically be overridden. So public comment is for people to get up and make the comment that they want to make. So with that, we've got, like I said, 23 speakers. I'll give you the order. The first couple is Gary Johnson. You'll be first up. Joan Hickman, and then Lucia Kelly, it looks like. And I always apologize if I mispronounce your names or can't read them very well, or mostly it's just me mispronouncing your names. I apologize for that. And I'll give you a little nod if we get up to that minute 45. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you. I live in the complex at Sienna, across from the proposal for 1727 Oak Avenue. And I'm sure many of the people you hear wholeheartedly oppose the proposal. What I'd like you to focus on, both those of you who think you're in favor of it and those who are against it, is to live with the consequences of two decisions you've already made. Number one, the Sienna complex was built a number of years ago with the agreement with the city that it would include a disability community living in our complex. That's the way we have been from the start. My wife and I moved in 5 years ago, and we're proud to have that community as neighbors. They're the backbone of our complex. These people have special needs. All of us already have trouble crossing Oak Avenue. Those with special needs are very concerned about what's going to happen with the congestion and the traffic that this proposal will bring. Second decision is the one that you have made to approve a new assisted living building at 1815 Ridge. That's at the end of the block on Oak, where our building has its ingress and egress, and the proposed building would have ingress and egress. So this block is going to get a tremendous amount of traffic. So those of you who think there must be a building here, please listen to the community and do not approve the special allowances. 17-story building versus 8, which is the relevant comparison for discussion. Please do not do it. And the number of units permitted, please do not grant the number of units. Please listen to the community to that extent. It's the wrong time and the wrong place for this building. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, Joan Hickman's up next, then Lucia Kelly, and then it looks like Basil Clooney.
Good evening. I'm not Joan Hickman. She's not going to be speaking. Very briefly.
Can you give your name?
I'm sorry. I'm Basil Clooney.
Oh, Basil.
Right. I'm speaking very briefly in support of the arts in Evanston. I understand that over the last several weeks we have been recipients of a long list of places, and I understand this is not a budget meeting, but it is something that is going to be coming up soon, and I think that it's not inappropriate to ask that people start thinking about how it is that we want to conserve our resources. I happen to be the husband of the person who started the Fleetwood Jardine Theater over 3 decades ago, And to date, they put on hundreds of productions. They have expanded their influence under the leadership of Tim Rose to involve summertime concert series, 3 plays every summer, Martin Luther King Day, Kwanzaa celebrations. They involve seniors and young people working together in the youth and senior theater ensemble, and they also collaborate with other Chicago theaters. Presently, there's a collaboration with Piven Theater, A Home on the Lake, which, and if anybody's seen that, really is relevant to the history of our city and how we try to work with events that could be less than positive, especially as it concerns race. They've also worked with Second Baptist Church, Beth Emmet, YOU, Christ Temple Church. So again, I'm asking that in all of the arts that we work with, not just them, that we really consider what kind of city we want to have, not only today, but also tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Terrific. Thank you. Next, is Lucia Kelly here? Oh, she wasn't here. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we've got Jerry Sizemore, then Alan Bergman, then Janad Rizki.
Thank you, Mayor. I am Jerry Sizemore, and I too am speaking on behalf of the Fleetwood Jourdain Theater. It has been a treasure in the Evanston community for more than 38 years. There are many things that go on there other than plays. As Mr. Clooney, the person ahead of me, he spoke to the fact that there is a collaboration in the community with YOU, Beth Emmet, the Foster Senior Club. There was a program that was started approximately 8 years ago. It's called Y-Step, where the seniors interact with the youth. And I have been a member of Y-Step since its inception approximately 8 years ago. We write plays together and we act out plays together. So please do not do anything to cut the budget for Fleetwood Jourdain Theater, because it is a treasure in the Evanston community, and it has enhanced the lives of seniors as well as the youth. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Next up is Alan Bergman. And then we've got Janad Rizki and then Susan Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Alan Bergman, and I own a unit at 1720 Oak Avenue, Siena Tower 611. I sent all of you some letters this morning. I hope you had a chance to maybe look at them. I will try to abide by the 1 3/4 minutes. I come at this not only as an owner, but somebody who has worked for 50 years across this country, local, national, and state, on community integration for people with disabilities. And unfortunately, you live in the 48th worst state in the country if you don't know it. You partnered with Center for Independent Future 10 years ago to create what is a rarity in this state: integrated, owned, or rented housing, which you heard Mr. Johnson describe, where my daughter lives in a condo, comes and goes as she pleases, and has a real life as a member of a community, not a licensed group home. That's the norm in Madison, Wisconsin. It's not the norm in Illinois. I bought in 4 years ago because she always should take a new mortgage out at 72. But I wanted Dina to have stability in her life and the security of CIF, and I'm now greatly worried about it with the decision you have made and the one pending tonight. 1815 you've approved, 1727 is on the docket. And I would like to remind you that the people who are going to be living there will have multiple disabilities. People at 55, 60, 65, 70, and 75 aren't going to be running the marathon. Here are the data from the CDC. They're in my letter this morning. Age 65 to 74, hearing impairments, 30%, vision impairment, 14.1, cognitive impairment, 22.6, ambulatory, 63.6, and it goes on, independent living, 34. Many of these people will need personal care, home health aides, homemakers, etc., which will generate an unbelievable volume of traffic. Parking isn't the issue here. Safety is the issue. The volume of traffic that is becoming through that neighborhood will be unbelievable. We don't even know what it's going to be from 1815. I would suggest let's see that one happen, look at the impact, talk to other communities about what buildings proposed like 1727 are doing in those communities in terms of volume of traffic, caregivers who turn over, by the way, 52% a year. So you're going to have people coming in and out in this labor force trying to help people who want to stay in their own home. You want it, I want it, AARP, 92% of us want to live in our own place and age in place. We don't want assisted living. We don't want nursing homes. That building won't be able to accommodate it. Please take serious consideration of the potential negative human impact of the 1727 Oak proposal. And I
thank
leave
you.
you, if I may, with a quote from Oprah Winfrey from the recent commencement address. Don't ever confuse with what is legal with what is moral. You're either principled or not. This is a moral issue.
Thank you. All right, Janad Rizki, Susan Johnson, then Flo Fenneman.
Once again, I ask the council to start the process to replace the city manager. We need a new manager simply because we need an investigation into the financial condition of the city. I think a lot of people are becoming troubled that they had to pick between helping children, helping parks, and helping other things. As I stated before, this is really a scam to pit us one against another, to spend all the time not really looking at the real problems of what's happened here. We're spending almost $2 million to close on a dinner theater on Howard Street, but we're going to close a black community theater possibly on a list. So that's what's going on here. A dinner theater for a private interest, and we're closing a community theater. So I think aldermen need to understand what's going on a lot of these things. An alderman wanted to recommend selling garages. Well, you can't sell the garages because they're so entangled in deals that have made them so in the red, it's ridiculous. And the water plant, why don't we sell that whole thing because it's such a profit center? Well, you can't sell it because all the capital's been colluded with the city capital, and nobody wants to investigate that because it's going to tell you something you're not going to want to hear. And then I've been told by several community members there's a staff person that continually makes misrepresentations, and I've heard this from quite a few sources now. Some council members have been informed of that individual. I think you should have a discussion on executive session about that employee and the problems. I won't reveal that in public, but I think it's time the city clean up that mess too. We have staff here that wants to paint a bridge we don't even own for $600,000 when we don't have capital for anything else. It's ridiculous, really ridiculous. And then recently, 2 weeks ago, we found out staff did not follow through on the Smiley Brothers deal and put the property back on the tax rolls for $75,000. And then, of course, there's plenty of things. And I know Mayor Haggerty, I will finish up, and we can talk some more, and we'll talk more about your office renovation at some future meeting. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Janad. All right, Susan Johnson, then Flo Fenneman, then Jackie Cryfield.
Hi, I'm Susan Johnson. I live at 1720 Oak, I almost said Ridge Avenue, and I'm here to express my extreme concern about the buildings that are being built at 1727 Oak and 1850 Ridge, 1815 at the corner of Clark and Ridge. We moved into our condo not quite 5 years ago, and the neighborhood, the street was a little busy. It wasn't terrible. The increase in the traffic that we've seen in the last 5 years has been substantial. People coming off of Ridge, it took them a long time to untangle that new intersection, and they finally did. People use that to cut through, and understandably, to get over to church without, avoid a stoplight. But that increases the traffic. The fact that people want to do two new buildings at the same time, the one across from ours is going to be 16 or 17 stories. I know they keep talking about increasing parking. Parking isn't the same as congestion from cars driving. You're going to add that many more cars. It's not the same as putting them somewhere. They're going to move around. At least that's what I've heard. And the access into the 1815 building is going to dump into Oak, right at the top of Oak where it becomes Clark. You know, all of these things need to be taken into consideration, but the most important thing, and I think some others have mentioned, is building those two buildings simultaneously. You're going to create a lot of congestion, and you're not going to, you don't know how one's going to affect the other. Thank you.
Thank you. We got Jackie Cryfield, then Jeff Connie, and then Candace Dalrymple.
Hi, I'm Flo Fenneman, and we've owned a condo at 1720 Oak since they were built. I've been a special educator most of my life, and I have a son with special needs. And I'm just going to be very brief, but I think we all have to put in perspective who we're going to benefit. Are we going to benefit the community? Or are we going to benefit the builder or the developer? And I'm opposed to it because Evanston is such a wonderful community, and that little box is going to be so overpopulated that it really takes away from the community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Flo. Then we got Jackie Cryfield, then Jeff Connie, then Candace Dalrymple. Criffield.
Good evening. Jackie Criffield.
Thank you, Jackie. I always guarantee you one thing: I will mispronounce at least one name every night. I apologize.
I'll go with that. Okay. Phil and I, my husband Phil and I, are pro good development, definitely, and have supported most new buildings at Evanston. I've listened to Mr. Carlson and his team present 4 times and can say without a doubt that all the paid-for studies, charts, and graphs can never accurately depict a living, breathing neighborhood. A 600 Davis high-profile project was recently denied partly over concern for pedestrian safety and traffic and was deemed too dense at 318 units. Yet adding even more, 332 units, to a small stretch of street on Oak is somehow being considered suitable. Negative effects ignored. 1727 would essentially create a corridor of a 10-story north tower at 1815 and a 17-story south tower of combined 332 units of senior living space, yards apart, both served entirely by a small section of Oak. A narrow street with diagonal parking, a downhill approach to a sharp 90-degree turn, which even if widened, has admitted problems for trucks and semis on Oak, because it's the major truck route from the north into downtown and the post office. A street already serving 3 significant parking garages with a heavily used crosswalk mid-street to the medical and office building across there. A lot going on. Visually separated by a lovely church, but actually both accessed on Oak, the 2 building entrances are only a few car lengths apart. With no alleys, the street must support these 332 units with garbage pickup, food services, residents, visitors, staff, movers, ambulances, which there will be, and caregivers. How can this not be too dense for this small street? Traffic problems already documented have received weak solutions or been dismissed. The 1727 Oak is in a tiny fraction of the D3, the site is in a tiny fraction of the D3 zone, but is not a crown jewel of Evanston by any means.
Jackie, I need you to wrap up.
Last paragraph here. It's on the wrong side of the tracks, a step down in status from Davis. Downtown for zoning purposes, but not downtown when the impact and priority of density and traffic are evaluated. The negative effects of combined 332 units and increased congestion they bring on Oak should not be evaluated by different standards than the 300 Davis was just because it's not a premier location property. Why don't those who live, worship, and work in the neighborhood of Oak, Clark, Ridge, and Church deserve the same consideration for safety, density, and traffic as those who live, work, and shop on Davis? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got Jeff Connie, Candace Dalrymple, and then Nicole Kustok.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Connie, member of a group of volunteers representing all wards, ages, and socioeconomic groups in Evanston. We honor the lakefront as the place where the community, nature, and history come together, a place where all Evanstonians can gather to learn, play, and celebrate. We are here tonight to offer Evanston a gift from these citizens, an opportunity to restore the natural dunes, beach, and parkland as part of a new public space with the iconic Grosse Pointe Lighthouse, a National Historic Landmark, as its centerpiece. This is a spot with astonishing natural beauty and great historical significance and predates even the lighthouse itself. In her book, published in 1928, the book was Evanston, Its Lands and Beginnings, historian Viola Crouch Reeling described how Father Jacques Marquette and Louis Joliet disembarked at Lighthouse Landing. She wrote, "Never getting far from land but hugging the shore of this lake with their canoes, the travelers no doubt gazed with admiration on the lofty oaks, tamaracks, and other varieties of trees that dotted the length of Evanston's holdings today as the men swung their canoes around the point where the lighthouse stands. The artist's soul of Joliet and Marquette's keen eye must have delighted in the beauty of that point, a point so beautiful that it gained the name from sailors in a later day of Beauty's Eyebrow." She's describing the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse, which I might add is right there, site of the city's treasured lakefront, quite an image to reflect on today. In the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse, the book Grosse Pointe Lighthouse by Donald Terrace in 1995, the author writes, Father Marquette paddled south along the western shore of Lake Michigan in his second voyage to the Chicago region. He was accompanied by two French companions and a band of Potawatomi and Illinois Indians. On December 3rd, Marquette made an entry in his diary indicating that the party was besieged by fog and was compelled to make a point and land at Marquette's map of the region strongly indicates that this famous wilderness pioneer camped at the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse on the night of December 3rd, 1974. Recognizing the century-old significance of this site, we realized the opportunity to make it come alive again and to broaden the appeal of this space for all Evanston.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. I need you guys to keep it to 1:45, please. Thank you.
I'm Nicole Kustak. Our vision is to restore the dunes to their natural state, to deconstruct the house and coach house, and to truly utilize the two recently renovated fog houses as environmental labs and classrooms for all Evanston children. The mansion and the coach house now obstruct both the lake and lighthouse from public view. We envision restoring key elements of the Jens Jensen's historic 1920s garden and integrating them into the natural landscape, while clearing and expanding the parkland and beach for the enjoyment of all members of our city. The primary goal of the city's lakefront master plan, unanimously approved by the council in 2008, is to preserve and enhance the lakefront's natural environment. Our plan is completely consistent with the community's consensus vision for Evanston and our most precious natural resource. We are ready to move forward. Our gift has been secured through the generous contributions of numerous residents. No additional fundraising is required. No liability issues will persist, and no prolonged construction period will be needed. We are eager to meet with all of you to finalize details so that we can move ahead. We hope you share in our vision and will act favorably on our offer. The future of this park and its dunes have been debated for over 7 years. We feel it's time for a new vision. We look forward to working with the entire city and our garden and green space groups on what we think would be a wonderful project for Evanston. Thank you for your consideration. We have here, this is a mural that, as it exists, is the District 65 headquarters, the JEH Education Building. And we felt it did a better job of representing our vision than any Photoshopped rendering could do. And it already exists there today.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Nicole. Is there, Candace, are you speaking? Or Nicole? Okay. All right. All right, so next up, we've got Jackie Prince, John Prince, and Courtney Long. There's Jackie.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, City Council members. Good to see you again, as usual. I wanted to make a comment in regard to microaggressions. It says microaggressions are everyday verbal, nonverbal, and environmental slights, snubs, or insults, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative messages to targeted persons based solely upon their marginalized groups. And the reason I wanted to speak about that is, as we know, because of the public things that we've seen with Starbucks and that we've seen at Yale, I think it was, having the police called on people who are minorities for whatever reason. I want you to know that I had that experience happen to me on Saturday or Sunday, and it happens in Evanston too. Early in the morning, I think it was Sunday, I heard some squirrels like fighting, and I'm like, stop it. Don't fight each other. And I had some crackers, so I was feeding them crackers. Next thing I know, I see a police officer driving by, and I know her by name. Her name is Heidi, and I said, hi. And because I went through the Citizens Police Academy, which is fabulous, class 4, yay. And she received a phone call that I was looking in someone's window. Now, one of the people, a man who lived in one of the houses, came out and got his newspaper and walked right in. He had every opportunity to ask me, what are you doing? He clearly heard me talking to the squirrels or yelling at them or whatever. The reason I'm mentioning this, I'm saying it sort of in a funny way, but it's not funny at all, because any interaction with the police is not a fun thing to go through when you are surprised and you are blindsided and you are doing nothing but feeding a squirrel. That is aggressive, that is intentional, and that is something that I should not be subjected to. Also wanted to say, while I'm sitting here waiting for this meeting, Nick comes up and decides he's going to test the air and close the windows. Obviously, people wanted the windows open. They were open before I got here. I opened this one window over here where I was standing. He decided to close the windows. When I said something about it, he proceeded to keep closing the windows. When someone else said something about it, who happened to not be a minority, he said, well, if you guys want, we could turn off the air conditioning and we can open up the windows, but it's not good for the system. Never have I heard that in my life, but okay, this is new. So could I please stop being sort of harassed? Oh, and I do want to...
We're up to our time.
Okay.
Next time. You can catch us next time, Jackie.
I want to second Mr. Januski's request for a new city manager who is more reflective of our community, and assistant city manager as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We've got John Prince, then Courtney Long, then Kurt Schaefer. Or Sheffer. Let's see. Do we have John Prince? Okay. Do we have Courtney Long?
My family owns a unit.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Courtney Long.
Okay.
Hi. Good evening. My family owns a condo at Sienna Court across the street from the proposed development at 1727 Oak, and we urge you to reject the proposal based on the following 4 issues. 1, there remains an open legal issue regarding the plans submitted. The plans were submitted by a firm unlicensed at the time of submission. The plans were represented and explained by an unlicensed architect, and material decisions were made by planning based on these plans. Given the numerous notices to the city and various council members about this matter, any safety failures on this project will with certainty produce a liability to the city. Second, the community members have spoken clearly about the negative impacts this massive and dense project will create on their lives. The parking problem alone should be a deal breaker, not to mention the increased traffic through the short stretch of Clark and Oak. The Planning Commission has glossed over these 2 problems by characterizing them as existing problems. Approval of the project by the Commission will only make the current problems worse. Third, Trammell Crow states that it is providing public amenities. It's actually offering what is required by law to pay property tax and to provide a percentage of square footage for low-income housing. The proposed public amenities to create a dog park on a very small and otherwise unusable parcel of land that will benefit very few people and more likely be a nuisance to others. Fourth, and it's ironic that the city has expressed a greater reaction to the concern about birds flying into the building than it has about the safety, quality of life, and well-being of the residents already vested in the community. particularly those with significant disabilities. Caregivers have spoken passionately about the inability to find adequate parking so that they may serve their clients in Siena. Approving this project as proposed today, welcoming newcomers at the expense of citizens in place, is a failure to serve and arguably unjust. We're not opposed to development. What we suggest is a more modest proposal that doesn't overpower the neighborhood, further oversubscribe the current resources. The best planning would be a remedy to the current problems. Reasonable planning would be to approve a project far less disruptive. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Courtney. Next, we've got Kurt Schaefer and then Catherine Criffield.
Hi, I'm Kurt Schaefer. I sat down and reread the Evanston Inclusionary Housing Ordinance last night. I'm not a lawyer, but it's written in pretty plain language, and it's also plain to me that the proposal for 1727 Oak does not comply with it. A developer can build affordable units that comply with the requirements. They can pay a fee in lieu. They can buy and operate existing units, but 1727 does none of these. The developer of 1727 has chosen not to pay the fee in lieu. The units they're providing are at a higher percentage of income than of median income than the ordinance allows. And the units also have a bedroom mix that's not in equal proportion to the market rate units as is required by the ordinance. 1720 includes 2 bedrooms, but no affordable 2 bedrooms. Law aside, that doesn't seem fair or inclusionary to me. We want to protect affordable housing, but only for those who live alone or in a smaller family. I don't understand. But has the council considered that applying the ordinance in this inconsistent fashion may violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution? The ordinance gives the developer multiple ways to comply, and this developer has met none of them. We cannot simply pick and choose which parts of the ordinance to enforce on a case-by-case basis. It's a clear disservice to the citizens of Evanston, but tonight I ask you to consider, is it lawful, or does it open the city to a challenge under that supreme law, our Constitution? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. Catherine Criffield, and then we'll have Linda, looks like Linda Ball, and then Mark Cisco. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Criffield. It's pronounced Criffield again. And I live at 1740 Oak Avenue. Mayor, what I've just presented you with is over 100 signatures of residents of Siena and the surrounding community who have signed an opposition statement. All of the other council members, you have also been provided with that list of names. A lot has been made about traffic in this community with regards to this development. The representatives Trammell Crow and the traffic engineers have proposed all of the answers and risks to these concerns that have been brought to your attention. However, the traffic study that they have cited on numerous occasions is first built not on current data. The traffic, the configuration upon which the building has now changed. They've changed their loading dock situation. The speed limit on Ridge has been reduced from 30 to 25. The configuration the proposed configuration at Oak and Clark Street by 1815 Ridge has also been modified. All of those factors were different when the KOLA traffic study was conducted. Their study was also conducted based on 1 day of data, and their peak hours were from 8 to 9 and 5 to 6. They used one other day of data from 2 years ago, or 3 years ago in 2015. There is no mention of the effect on the large intersection at Ridge, Green Bay, and Emerson. There is no mention of any data regarding the emergency vehicles that have already been established to be generated by 1815 Ridge. And I think most importantly, it's not a safety study. The scope of the study relates to the infrastructure and its ability to withstand an increase in number of vehicles. We've all established that the The safety is foremost. Mayor, I've heard you say that Evanston is on a mission to create the most livable city for everyone, and that for Evanston to be the most livable community for all residents, we must continue to advance equitable, sustainable, and innovative practices. To approve this fulfills none of those, and I highly recommend you to wait, because Evanston is an awesome place to live. I've been a resident my entire life. Something awesome and something better can be put on this site that we can all really, really benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, next up we've got Linda Ball, then Mark Susko, and then Tom Hodgman.
Hi, my name is Linda Barr, and I live at 1110 Foster. I'm against the agreement of the vacation rental at 1109 Garnett, which is right behind me. I've lived in that neighborhood for 23 years now. I just had a 60% raise in my property tax. I now pay $10,000 a year. I do not want to deal with vacation rental people, mostly young people. I have to call the police all the time. I've had meetings with the chief. And the neighborhood is changing. It's turning more residential. People want to live near downtown Evanston, which was, they spent I'm a lifetime Evanstonian. They spent $41 million to develop downtown Evanston. Our neighborhood is the last neighborhood that's reasonably priced, that's walking distance to downtown Evanston and the lake. The investors who are asking for all of this sees the handwriting on the wall with all the buildings that are coming that are targeting the college people. None of the investors live in Evanston. They don't care about Evanston. They just want cash cows here in Evanston. I raised my children here. I've been here my entire life. And for them to want to just squeeze more money out of the Evanston area, targeting the college kids, is, I think it's uncalled for. So I would like you to vote against P2 and in favor of the residents of Evanston.
Thank you, Linda. Looks like Mark or Merrick Susko. Again, I apologize. And then Tom Hodgman, and then Molly O'Connell, and then Dave Graver will be the last.
I'm Marek Suszko, and I live at 1112 Foster, just across the alley from 1109 Garnett Place. And I'm also asking you to vote against granting the vacation rental license to the property at 1109 Garnett Place. This is another case of a non-resident investor coming and buying the property at the time when we are looking for affordable housing in the area. This is again the last downtown area in Evanston that is still affordable. Many of these properties are duplexes, and so it is possible for less wealthy families to buy them and then rent the other half to other people, to renters. So you're looking for more affordable housing. These are perfect properties for all of us. We've seen families coming back to our neighborhood. I raised my children there. I've lived here for 20 years. You can hear I speak with an accent, but the first time we came with my wife here to Evanston as graduate students, we fell in love with this city and we stayed. And we raised our children here. There are families living just across the street from that property as well with small children. We do not want a hotel-like property, another one in this area. You approved one already in November on that street. This will be the second one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Merrick. Well, we've got Tom Hodgman, Molly O'Connell, and then Dave Graver. Let's see, do we have Tom? All right, how about Molly O'Connell?
I'm Molly O'Connell, and I'm at 1740 Oak. And I don't think, and for people like with disabilities, I don't think it's a good idea to have the building going up. Because it would not work, because if you take out like parking meters, then it would be bad for people, for like families to try and park. And for my friend's sister, it's like hard for her caretakers to find a spot. So I don't think it'll be a good idea for it to go up.
Thank you, Molly.
I'll come get it.
Good evening, City Mayor and City Council. My name is David Graber. I live at 1720 Oak Avenue, and myself, and I think I can speak on behalf of all the wheelchairs that live in my building, we are all very opposed to the P7 project. It's going to create a traffic hazard for somebody like myself. If I have to walk, like when I walk around, I'm usually walking. It takes me a longer time to walk for somebody with a disability. But as you can tell, I had surgery. But my thinking is, it's going to be a complete chaotic hassle for anybody that's got a disability, a wheelchair. And, basically it's going to be a lot of fun, hard for all of us to get back and forth to the Sienna Tower any day of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, thank you, Devon. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for speaking so passionately about a variety of issues that confront the city and the City Council. I expect we'll have a thorough conversation of these different items this evening. We're going to move on now to the consent agenda. Let's see, Alderman Fleming, if you take us through M1 and then APW.
Sure. Just. All right, so I move M1 for their approval of minutes of the regular City Council meeting dated May 14, 2018. Also, in the Administration and Public Works Committee, we approve the following consent agenda. Payroll dated April 30th, 2018 till May 13, 2018 in the amount of $3,049,254.40. The bills list dated May 30th, 2018, $5,237,593.76. The credit card activity, not including Amazon, for the Bank of America card with the period ending March 31st, $17,565.93. And the BMO credit card, not including Amazon, period ending March 26, 2018, in the amount of $132,105.42. Also, the Amazon credit card activity for our Bank of America card, period ending.
Alderman Fleming, I think we're going to do a vote after A21.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So do we have a second on M1A1, A21? Okay, City Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Okay. Consent agenda items M1, A1, A21 pass the City Council 8-0. Thank you, Alderman Fleming. If you could go to 8. Excuse me. Did it not pass 8 to? Oh, excuse me. I guess it passed 7-0. Excuse me. We didn't have Alderman Braithwaite here. Thank you, Clerk Reed. Okay. All right. Alderman Fleming, if you do A2.2, and then we'll have to do a vote on that, and then we'll go through the rest.
All right, A2.2 is Amazon credit card activity for the Bank of America card, period ending March 31st, 2018, the amount of $1,454.57, as well as the BMO credit card for Amazon, period ending March 26, 2018, the amount of $12,061.30. This is for action.
Clerk Reed, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Sufferton. Yep. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
All right. A2.2 passes the City Council 6-0 with one abstention, which is Alderman Sufferton. Okay, Alderman Fleming, now you can go through the rest of APW.
Okay. 3.1, we approved the contract with J.A. Johnson Paving Company for 2018 motor fuel tax street resurfacing project. That is in the amount of $1,508,678. And that's for action. 3.2 is one-year contract with Corrective Asphalt Materials for reclaimant pavement rejuvenation program. That is in the amount not to exceed $50,000. A 3.3 is the purchase of Arbortate fungicide with the Rainbow Tree Care Scientific Advancements. That was approved in the amount of $28,248.88. A 3.4 has been pulled off the consent agenda. 3.5 is a contract with Kovilic Construction Company Incorporated for the Church Street Harbor South Pier renovations in the amount of $891,000. 3.6 is a 3-year contract with Mark Vin Company for vending machine services at the City of Evanston facilities. That one actually costs us nothing, and we have profit shares with the company. 3.7 is renewal of Source computer-aided dispatch software license and service agreement with Superion. That is in the amount of $75,592.43. 3.8 is a 2-year contract amendment for parking meters and multi-space pay stations with Duncan Solutions. That is in the amount of $91,971. 3.9, Sidewalk Cafe for Falcon Eddie's Barbecue, a Type 2 restaurant at 825 Church Street that will operate from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. 3.9 is the request to extend hours of alcohol service at Celtic Knot. That's for a limited. Celtic Knot is located at 626 Church Street. This is for a limited time of June 14th through July 15th. Beginning, they request alcohol sales beginning at 7 a.m. A4 has been held in committee. A5 is for introduction. It's Ordinance 63-0-18, amending the city code to remove a one-way alley restriction between Harrison Street and Colfax. That will cost the city $40. A6 is also for introduction. It's Ordinance 35-0-18 for the sale of surplus property fleet vehicles. There is no cost there. And that is our consent agenda.
Excellent. Thank you. Alderman Fisk, could you take us through Planning and Development Committee?
You bet. P1 is being held in committee. P2 is off the agenda. It's the vacation rental license for 1109 Garnett. P3 is Resolution 32R18, plat of re-subdivision for 2652 Sheridan Road from 1 into 2 lots. That's for action. P4, Alderman Rainey, did you want to remove this or leave it on? Okay, so P4 is off the consent agenda. It's a special use permit for the YWCA. P5 is off the consent agenda. Or actually, can I just move for this, just for this to be introduction only, not suspension of the rules? So we'll leave it on the consent agenda for introduction. That was for the examination of records by unit owners. P6 is off the consent agenda. It's Resolution 22R16, the plat of re-subdivision for 1727 Oak. P7 is off the consent agenda. It's Ordinance 59018, the special use permit for a planned development at 1727 Oak. P8 is on the consent agenda. It's Ordinance 61018. It's a map amendment for the planned development and special use for an open sales lot at 128 to 132 Chicago Avenue. I move approval.
Second.
Okay. Can we, let's keep going through here. Alderman Ravel, could you introduce H1?
Sure. H1, bed and breakfast license renewal for Stone Porch by the Lake.
Could you take that off, please? Sorry.
Okay. At 300 Church Street, Human Services Committee and city staff recommend approval for the renewal of the bed and breakfast license for Stone Porch by the Lake Bed and Breakfast located at 300 Church Street.
Great, thank you. And that's off the agenda. We've taken that off. All right. Alderman Rainey, could you take us through the Housing and Community Development Act Committee?
The Housing and Community Development Act Committee met last week, and we have two items here. One is Resolution 35R18, which we're asking you to approve the 2018 Action Plan and adopting the 2018 Community Development Block Grant Home Investment Partnership and the Emergency Solutions Grant Program budgets for 2018. That's for action. And Resolution 36R18, which amends the 2011, 14, 15, and 16 Community Development Block Grant Program and authorizing the reallocation of unexpended CDBG funds in the 2018 Action Plan. I move approval of those two items.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson, could you take us through Economic Development Committee and also appointments?
Thank you. Economic Development Committee also met last week. We have three items for action tonight. First is 03, Entrepreneurship Support Program applications for Eye Candy Salon and Total Transformation Solutions. The committee and staff are recommending approval of financial assistance through the Entrepreneurship Support Program, totaling $5,000 for the following businesses: Eye Candy Salon for $2,500 and Total Transformation Coaching for $2,500. And that is for action. We also have 04, part of our storefront modernization program, two applications, one for Booked and one for Prairie Moon. Staff and Economic Development Committee are recommending approval of financial assistance on a 50-50 cost-sharing basis through the storefront modernization program to the following Evanston businesses: Booked at 506 Main Street in an amount not to exceed $4,748.40 for new signage and a new door, and Prairie Moon at Chicago Avenue in an amount not to exceed $8,037 for signage and storefront improvements. That is also for action. We also have 05. As part of our Evanston Great Merchants Grant, West Village has an application, and Staff and Economic Development Committee are recommending approval to provide financial assistance through the Great Merchants Grant Program to the West Village Business Association for the remainder of the funds set aside for them, totaling $2,178.75, and that is for action. We have some appointments tonight proposed. First is for appointment to the Library Board, Rachel Heyman, and that is for action. We also have reappointments proposed.
Can you take those off, please?
Okay, AP appointments 2 are off the consent agenda.
Terrific. Do I have a second for the consent agenda? All right. City Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
All right. The consent agenda, as stated, passes the City Council with a vote of 8-0. Okay. Alderman Fleming, could you take us through A34?
Yeah, 834 is sole source contract with Otis Elevator Company for the modernization of elevators at the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center. The staff is recommending we authorize city manager to execute a sole source contract for elevator modernization at the Civic Center with Otis Elevator Company in the amount of $457,779. This funding will come from capital improvement 2018 general obligation bonds, in the amount of $457,779. This is for action.
All right. Do we have a second to that? Okay, let's go ahead and have, thank you, Alderman, or Clerk Reed. Alderman Sufferton.
Sure. Just quickly, I don't doubt that there's a necessity to modernize these elevators, but I think it needs to be part of a larger conversation about our long-term plans for this building. I think between the $500,000 for the elevator, the upcoming HVAC, we're going to end up with some substantial expenses here, and we should probably have an intentional conversation about how long we intend to be here, and if we are going to make these improvements, what is the best way to fund them. So respectfully, I'm going to vote no on this tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Well, I think if we're going to be here for another year, which I know we are, I think we're endangering the lives of everybody who gets in those elevators, because I know for a fact that one of those elevators is out of order at least 1 or 2 days a week when I'm in here. It might only be when I walk in the door, but it is always posted out of order. And so I think for us to, this isn't the air conditioner where we can open the windows. This is an elevator where people, we've heard a lot about people who have certain disabilities. We have an elevator here that is not working, and somebody gets in it, we're going to have a lot more people with issues. And I just think it's endangering the lives of people who work in this building all day, who come and visit in this building, and it just makes absolutely no sense not to fix these elevators. The word modernization, I think, has gone to people's heads here. I think what we're really doing is making the elevator safe. So I would encourage everybody to support this.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Wilson.
And, we've made a very, very substantial commitment and investment in the building from when I started to now. It's might as well be a new building, frankly. So I don't think there's any, I'm not aware of any suggestion on moving or changing. So to me, it falls in the category of basic maintenance that's required. Alderman Rainey, I think you're right. It's not a fancy high-tech elevator. It's just an elevator that works. So I think that's imperative to have that in the building.
All right, terrific. Seeing no more lights, we had a motion with a second. Clerk Reed, could you take the roll on A34?
Alderman Sufferton? No. Alderman Ravel? Aye. Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk? Aye. Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen? Aye. Alderman Wilson?
All right, A34, sole source contract with Otis Elevator Company for the modernization of the elevators at the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center passes the Evanston City Council on a vote of 7-1. All right, Alderman Fisk, could you take us through the items in planning and development that were pulled off, starting with P2?
Mm-hmm. P2 is the vacation rental license for 1109 Garnett. It meets all the standards and procedures for license approval, and it's on for action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Mr.
Okay,
Mayor,
go ahead, Alderman Fisk.
I'm voting against this. My policy is if a vacation rental is not owner occupied, it's not something I can support in this neighborhood.
All right, seeing no more discussion. She comes in at the wire. Alderman Nguyen.
I share Alderman Fisk's view. I believe that when we permit a vacation rental, and I know that we have had this discussion and we need to move forward because we're going to be getting more and more of these, but I believe they should be owner occupied to promote the Evanston community. So I will be voting no as well.
Alderman Wilson.
And I do understand the concern of the neighbors in the neighborhood. I understand the point about that there's a difference between owner-occupied and not. But at this time, it's not the policy, so I just don't feel I can be supportive of something that deviates from our current policy. If we need to change it, we need to change it, but I think we have to be consistent.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
I agree with Alderman Wilson. I will be supporting owner-occupied for certain size residential properties, but since it is not a policy right now, I'm going to support this.
All right, seeing no more lights, City Clerk, could you take the roll, please, on P2?
Alderman Sufferton? Or is that, I'm sorry, is this P1?
This is P2, vacation rental for 1109 Garnett Place. P1 was kept in committee.
Alderman Ravel? No. Alderman Rainey?
Yes.
Alderman Fleming?
Yes.
Alderman Fisk?
No.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Yes.
Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Okay. P2, vacation rental license for 1109 Garnett Place passes the Evanston City Council on a 5-3 vote. Okay. Alderman Fisk, can you take us to P4?
It's ordinance 68018, a special use permit to expand the community center located at 1215 Church Street and 1726 to 1730 Ridge Avenue. The Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff recommend adoption for the special use for the expansion of the YWCA Evanston North Shore. It's in the R4 General Residential District. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a special use for this district. Alderman Braithwaite recommends suspension of the rules for introduction and action at tonight's meeting. Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Alderman Rainey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I ask that this be removed from the consent agenda for one reason and one reason only. I am fully supportive of the YWCA and all of its wonderful work. I couldn't be more supportive of their shelter work and their work with women. However, I want to point out that the two properties they're taking off the tax rolls at this location would be generating this next tax year approximately $20,000, the $30,000. The $20,000. The property that they are in the process of removing from the tax rolls that they have purchased in another part of town will be taking off approximately $30,000, which makes a total removal of the tax rolls of $50,000 in property tax going to the city schools, other taxing bodies, and the city of Evanston. And while I had a conversation with the executive director about all of their good work, which I am totally devoted to, they also get a lot of public money. And all the public money and then the removal of property from the tax rolls and all their good work still results in the removal of property from the tax rolls. And I think we need to begin being more cognizant of this kind of thing, especially when so much of our conversation tonight has been about the loss of tax revenue. And so I'm just pointing that out. $50,000 in the matter of a year or so from one single organization in this town. It's a lot to think about, and I think maybe we need to begin working out a deal with these organizations. When they take something off, they need to give something back, more than they normally give. And I'm just pointing that out. And I am proud to support suspension of the rules and this proposal.
Terrific. Thank you, Alderman Rainey. Seeing no more lights, we had a motion that was seconded. City Clerk, could you take the roll on P4?
Alderman Sufferton. Yes. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
P4 Ordinance 68-0-18, special use permit to expand the community center located at 1215 Church Street and 1726 and 1730 Ridge Avenue, passes the Evanston City Council 8-0. Alderman Fisk, could you take us to P6?
Yes, P6 is Resolution 22R18, approving a plat of re-subdivision for 1727 Oak Avenue. Plan Commission and staff recommend adoption. Applicant requests a subdivision to separate the development parcel from the 1007 Church parcel. A subdivision meets all requirements of the D3 Downtown District, including lot size and lot width, and has been reviewed by the Public Works Agency for compliance. It's on for action tonight.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Was this pulled off because it's related to
I'm
P7?
voting no. I'm
Okay.
voting no.
I'm sorry?
I'm voting no. That's
Oh,
why I
okay.
pulled it.
I'm sorry. City Clerk, could you take the roll on P6?
Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
No.
Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
All right. P6 passes the Evanston City Council with a vote of 6-2, and that's Resolution 22R18 approving a plat of re-subdivision for 1727 Oak Avenue. Again, passes 6-2. Alderman Fisk, you take us to P7.
B7 is Ordinance 59018, granting a special use permit for a planned development located at 1727 Oak Avenue in the D3 Downtown Core Development District. Plan Commission and staff recommend adoption of this ordinance. The planned development is for a 17-story, age-restricted, multifamily rental development with 169 units and 136 parking spaces in the D3 Downtown Core Development District. 4 site development allowances are requested for the number of dwelling units, building height, front yard setback, and number of loading berths. It's on for action tonight.
Second. Move approval. I thought you moved it. I said second.
I didn't move it.
Why?
You move it.
So someone needs to move.
Okay,
someone,
I'll
she,
move.
even though she read it, she's not moving it.
Okay.
She's probably voting against it.
Thank you for the clarification. I'd like to move item P7.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? Alderman Wynn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I am opposing this development, and I believe that there were many speakers tonight who spoke very eloquently, but I think in particular, I think it was Mr. Courtney Long, Kurt Schaefer, and Ms. Criffield raised important points that I think have not been overcome with this plan. I think first and foremost is that the safety issue. This is a special community that we have here. We're going to be adding 2 other communities that have their own special needs, and I do not believe we have a good, safe plan here for how all of these various residents are going to be able to work and live safely there. I also have concerns about the inclusionary housing ordinance issues. I think Mr. Schaefer raised those very, very well. And I think Mr. Long's issue about needing to serve the community that we have here before we welcome others. I do welcome the development that we have coming into the city, but I think that this is a particularly sensitive community, and I think that those issues have not been properly addressed. So I will be voting no.
Thank you, Alderman Wynn. Alderman Fisk.
Well, I agree with everything that Alderman Wynn just said, and but want to add a few other things. As I spoke at the last meeting, this is a very difficult site. It's on a truck route. It's on a very sharp curve. It is a very congested, very potentially dangerous location, very close to other buildings. The site development allowances, I believe, are too excessive for the site, and I am concerned about how we're bunching some of these buildings together in such a difficult location. So I'll be voting no.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if you're not in support of the development or the project, it's difficult to convince people. We've seen that. And so with that, I will just say to those in the audience that I will just have to respectfully disagree. But I am prepared to speak to the issues, and I think it's important to unpack it and separate it. So the issues that I've heard throughout this project are issues that we've addressed in a number of neighborhood meetings, probably totaling at least 7 or so. So respectfully to Alderman Wynn and Alderman Fisk, like you, I travel all the roads in Evanston, and I would have to say that based on my experience in driving down that path in Oak, when you come around that corner, you slow down. And we've had Officer Napier, who's testified during the Plan Commission meetings to that fact that you actually slow down. And I don't recall reading anywhere in our staff reports that that specific area has a high number of traffic accidents or calls for services that people have been hit in that area. And I think that with the emotion that's in the room, it's almost unfair. And I've said this before, in the second ward, We have Dreams. We have another organization, Rimland Services, that are located in the industrial area that are just right off of Main Street. And we've never had any high occurrence of any type of accidents. So you cannot convince me that that area that where we plan on housing seniors, our most fragile and delicate like residents, not to be disrespectful, but just seniors, there is a shared commitment from the developers, and I would like to think the city staff that that with the placement of that project, if anything else, it's going to be a very safe corridor. That's just my opinion. There was a speaker before that questioned the benefits, and I just want to remind us and also the public. So we have a number of council goals that we task our city manager with focusing on. And when I looked up the council goals, this project actually touches on a few of them. Number one, it provides a much needed inventory for seniors who like to age well in this community. And I think by adding additional inventory that helps to stabilize the housing for our seniors. In addition to that, and maybe I'll ask the developer just to touch briefly on the parking, if I can have Johnny come forward just to give a quick little update, because I know that you've had a conversation with the executive director from the Living Center for Independent Futures. With the proposal for affordable housing, this is the first development that I've seen that actually is complying 100% with our affordable housing by not buying out, but actually making sure that those units are on site. So that's 16 units.
17.
Thank you. 17 units that are going to range based on the projections they put in the public packet, anywhere from 700 to 900, with the average number being somewhere around 800. Please, you can fill in the blanks later, that are going to be on site for 25 years. So it checks that box of expanding affordable housing units. The other thing, I think Alderman Rainey raised this issue with one of our previous items, that, what do we do about our need to expand the tax base? And the property, once it's built, will expand our tax base approximately $1 million, with 69% of that going to the schools. In addition to that, and all this information is in the packet, so I'll just move through it quickly. We know that it's going to create jobs. We have a commitment from the developer that he is going to hire Evanston first where possible. And in addition to that, there will be some additional retail space and possible community space that would be available for rental. Again, the things that I can work on and to the community that's still here, moving forward, should this pass, you will have my commitment that we will work on the parking issues. I've had a very brief conversation with Kurt, and the Chris Fields. I also mentioned that I will be making this comment. I don't know what the internal parking is inside Sienna, but I would like to respectfully explore that. So there are 20 families that are part of the Centers for Independent Futures out of 111 families. And my guess is there are probably people who live in that building that will probably leave their parking spaces at some point during the day. And I would like to work very closely with the residents there, as well involve our city staff, if that's all right, city manager, to make sure that if there is a way to really look and figure out that if there are people that are leaving during the day, is there a possibility, in addition to what the developer's allowances are, to see if we can find additional parking within the building. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I committed to at one of our neighborhood meetings, and this was a recommendation from the public, and that is, if there are spaces, to look at the existing spaces and to figure out if we need to make an adjustment with the parking meters. Again, to better understand what the needs are for those that are coming to visit, to provide support services for the people that live at Sienna. and just pay very close attention to the parking needs. I asked Patrick Hughes, who I've worked with very closely in town on citywide issues that it relates to this ability to just to be there to provide me with an extra set of eyes to make sure that we're paying very close attention to all the details that impact this project as it relates to the disabled community. And moving forward, I've already spoken to our city manager in my last meeting that should this project move forward, that we will do a joint meeting that will be hosted at Mount Zion Church, where we'll talk very high-level details in terms of the construction timeline, staging for the project, as well as where the project updates will be posted for all that are concerned.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Fleming?
I'm happy to let the developer say his piece. Or do you want me to go first?
I'm sorry. Did I miss?
Alderman Braithwaite asked the developer to come out and speak about something.
I thought he
we've had
spoke
some
already.
updates of the park from the last meeting, and I just wanted him to update the conversations that he's had with.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry,
and
I'll
do
be
it. I'm
quick.
sorry. Do a
No-
quick
no
update.
problem.
It's
Johnny-
early. It's only 9:30.
I know,
and you
we're
think it's
good.
midnight or something for me. Sorry about that.
No problem. Johnny Carlson with Trammell Crow. I think the big piece of this was we heard loud and clear at the last meeting. We reached out early on to the neighbors. We heard caregivers is a big topic for all of us for parking and what to do in the future if we're adding people, if those caregivers aren't able to park there and service their occupants next door. We're firm believers. We are aligned. A number of ADA procedures are being implemented into our building that I've outlined at previous meetings, but we've reached out to our seller of our land who owns the parking across the street in a covered garage. It's adjacent to Sienna. We've asked them to work with us to create 5 stalls for caregivers. We have to work on logistics of fobs, access, et cetera, but they're willing and we're willing to work together. Most recently, over the Friday or Saturday over the weekend, I spoke to Ann Sikkinen, who leads the Independent Futures, and we are going to work together to try to make this come to fruition and plan those 5 stalls and make it an easy transition. Change is hard. We're here to work together. We're going to have a logistics meeting and try to get ahead of all these issues. In our minds, 2 projects going at once is better to get it out of the way, working together versus 3 or 4 years of projects starting and going. So you have our word to work with them and the neighbors for the parking, and I hope that satisfies some of the concerns. And thank you very much, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you. Alderman Fleming?
Thank you. So I just want to address a couple things that I heard in the audience. I appreciate anyone who comes out to speak and give their opinion, because we do work for you and need to hear your opinion. I have, in my ward, which is further south, I think only heard from a few of the speakers who were here this evening who either live in the building or have a relative in the building in terms of opposition. And that is far different than when I first sat in council and we were going over the Tommy Nevins building, whatever that was called, which I oppose. This building I will be supporting. I am sympathetic to the population that lives there. However, it appears to me from what I've read and what I've learned that the developer is going to work to make some crosswalks and improve some of our pedestrian signage, which is much needed all around town. So I'm appreciative of that. I think one thing that concerns me as I sit here over a year now and hear about developments is I hear a little bit of a reoccurring theme from different populations in Evanston, and that is, I'm not opposed to the building, but it just shouldn't go here. And I think one thing that I just want to say publicly is we're not a large city, right? We're like 7 miles long, I think. And we don't, unless we are going to start building on some of our parkland, which I think everyone would oppose, we don't have a ton of space to build on. And we are not, at least unless I'm out of the loop on things, we are not out, recruiting developers. People come here because it is a great city to live. But I am growing more concerned that if we oppose everything that comes to us and say, well, a few years down the line we'll get something better, or let's wait and see what happens next year. I don't know what the market bears, and I'm not in real estate. I don't know what next year holds for us, and that's not to say I'm going to approve everything, but I think this development seems to be thoughtful. It is in a kind of an odd shaped street. It's in an odd shaped lot, and it's been open I would imagine. I mean, I've passed by it my whole life, and it's been there next to not St. Francis, was called Mount Zion Church. So I hope that the developer is going to work with you for some parking. I live on a residential street where parking is not an issue, but I do see a huge uptake in traffic down my street as people are trying to avoid main thoroughfares, as people are using Waze and other traffic apps. And I am more concerned as a citizen when I have children walking to school that we have cars speeding down our roads. That said, I can't stop people from moving in my neighborhood. I don't want to be that kind of neighbor who is opposed to people moving because it's going to put another car on my street. So while I'm sympathetic, I am hopeful that the developer and Alderman Braithwaite, as well as the rest of our city staff working on the project, will be mindful to your needs. But I also cannot vote no to a project that has a lot of benefits to the city based on the needs of, I'll say smaller, because we have 80,000 people in the city, a smaller group. And so I just want us to continue to push to be a community that really does think about inclusivity and having people and having more people in our city living next to us. And all of that brings. I know it brings more traffic, and no one loves more traffic. But I think if we're going to continue to be a growing city, we're going to have more people who have more cars or bicycles or whatever they're doing, more walkers. And I think that makes us, I think that's part of what makes us a great city, is that people actually want to move here. The one thing I will say for the developer, and I shared this with Alderman Braithwaite, excuse me, and this is a bigger conversation that we'll continue to have on council, I'm not really that excited about some of the public benefits. So there's the contribution for the pay boxes. I mean, those are necessary, but not really that exciting to me. The transit tracker display board, I mentioned this in another development. I think that's more of a benefit to the residents in the building, not necessarily a public benefit. And protected bike lanes, I imagine that you're going to be, it says you're going to repaint them. I imagine that means you're going to maybe do some damage to them, so I would expect you to repaint them. And then there's also like the streetscape improvements, curb extensions, so on and so forth. I mean, those things, again, are nice, but I guess I would like to see us as a council and continue our conversation about public benefits and really kind of pushing those up a notch. I think that someone who's going to landscape in front of their building was going to do that, whether we gave them credit or not, because it's going to make their building look nice. And I would hope that they're going to repair things that they, have to damage in their build of their building. So I would like to push a little bit more on the public developments. I guess I'm willing to let these go, hearing that you're going to work to provide some more parking for the residents and for the caregivers. But we also do have some other parking in the downtown area. So I'm sure that Alderman Braithwaite will make sure that we have some caregiver parking if available. But I don't think that that's something that is guaranteed. I have people in my community who are in wheelchairs and walkers and so on and so forth. And people live in streets where there's only apartment buildings. Alderman Rainey has some too. And these are people who, pay rent or pay mortgage, and they circle for blocks and blocks to find one parking space for their, own car for a building that they rent or own. So I don't want us to kind of promote this idea that people are kind of guaranteed parking close to their building, because a lot of our residents in the city, circle a lot of times. And I have a lot of single women who will park illegally just to be on the block with their building because they work late or so forth. And, that's a real issue for them. But unless they move, there's really nothing I can do to make our streets any, more parking friendly for them. So anyway, I will support this building, but I did want to make those public statements.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Ravel.
Well, I certainly appreciated hearing from so many of the residents in the Sienna building. I think they've really made a very powerful case for their importance to the neighborhood, and they've really raised our awareness of a problem that they've been dealing with for years, the whole caregiver parking issue. Whether we had this development coming to us or not, that's a problem that we should have been aware of and tried to work on already. So I really do appreciate the fact that the developer is going to be providing some spaces in the Sienna building through the 1007 Church Street arrangement there. That is a nice public benefit, and I just encourage you to do as many spaces that way as you can. I really applaud Alderman Braithwaite for the work that he's outlined that he's going to do to see if there aren't other spaces available in the Sienna building that aren't part of that 1007 Church Street allotment. The Sienna building was built way back when we had much more rigorous parking requirements, and yet people's driving habits have really changed a lot. And so I think what we're finding is many of our parking structures were overbuilt with parking spaces. So there probably are spaces in the Sienna building that nobody is really using. So I think there's a real opportunity there for us to work closely to provide as many caregiver spaces as we can. I think that would, because as I understood from talking with various people, one of the problems in terms of having the caregivers is there's a huge, really rapid turnover with caregivers, and nothing more discouraging to a caregiver than having to walk blocks and blocks in a cold winter day to try to find a place to park. So if we can at least eliminate that problem that caregivers face, I think that would really be helpful. I agree with Alderman Braithwaite that I think the satisfaction of the affordable housing requirement is really positive to have 17 units on site. I know there's a discrepancy in terms of the AMI ratio there, but I think it's really a very meaningful number of on-site affordable units. I'm really pleased to see that. I think that's probably all I need to say. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Ravel. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. I think much of what I was going to say was pretty well stated by Alderman Fleming, but contrary to what, if you picked up this and looked at social media, contrary to what it says, we don't approve every development. I think we've approved 2 of the last 4. And this isn't really about winning or losing. This is about collaborating and doing what's best for the city as a whole. So it's important for us to hear from the community. It's important for us to hear from the people who are impacted, because that facilitates the collaboration. And it's not a winning or losing game. Sometimes it feels like that, but at the end, it's really not about winning or losing. It's about building a strong Evanston. And the word investment's not a bad word. Investment can be good or bad, and I think when we're talking about somebody making a contribution in a positive way to the community, that's to be valued. Safety and access are always at the highest on my list of priorities, and I think the same goes for everybody up here. So we are going to be mindful of that. Staff and Alderman Braithwaite's reached out to me also. One of the things I want to make a commitment to doing is re-looking at this truck route situation. So that's not in front of us today, but I think that warrants a good hard look, because I don't know if that makes sense the way that's operating now. But
thank you, Alderman Wilson.
This is it's an ongoing collaboration. It's going to be uncomfortable to have construction project going on. There's no doubt about it. There have been construction projects in the 4th Ward, and they are uncomfortable. But when they're done, what we want to do is have a strong community and a strong Evanston. So I'll be supporting the project tonight.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Alderman Rainey.
I think this is going to work out, but I do think that there is some past bad blood having to do with the Roszak project to begin with. Yeah. And I think many of us who are around at the time can remember when the parking deck at the Sienna project collapsed and caused all sorts of issues, and I believe there were some lawsuits involving the lack of accessibility at the Roszak project, and so I think a lot of the misgivings have to do with not trusting the original developer of the Roszak project. I mentioned to Alderman Braithwaite the other day that I felt that the presentation made by this developer was probably one of the best presentations I've heard about a development since I've been here. It was clear and concise and really very inclusive and very understandable and very clear. And I was extremely impressed by that. And I think because we've had a bad experience from one developer doesn't mean that that goes for all of them. And I will never forget the issues that we had with Roszak.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of you remember that, or at least your families remember that. And so I think we can move on, and I think the promises that have been made here and the commitment Peter has made, I think we're going to be fine, and we'll all work together on this. And so hopefully we can conclude here and take a vote.
Great. Thank you,
I'm not
Alderman.
going to call for the question.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey. All right, seeing no more lights, we had a motion with a second. City Clerk, could you take the roll on P7?
Alderman Sufferton? Yes. Alderman Ravel? Aye. Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk? Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen? Alderman Wilson?
All right. P7, Ordinance 59-0-18, granting a special use permit for a planned development located at 1727 Oak Avenue in the D3 Downtown Core Development District, passes the Evanston City Council on a vote of 6-2. Alderman Ravel, if you could take us to H1, please.
Yes, okay. For action, Human Services Committee and city staff recommend approval of the renewal of the bed and breakfast license for Stone Porch by the Lake, located at 300 Church Street. For action.
Second.
All right. Alderman Fisk.
Yes, I asked for this to be removed. I'll be voting against this. Again, as you've heard me say in the past, I just don't believe that the bed and breakfast license renewal should be paid by a billionaire who is not paying the Airbnb hotel tax.
Okay. All right. Seeing no more lights, City Clerk, could you take the roll, please, on H1?
Alderman Sufferton? Yes. Alderman Ravel? Aye. Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk? Alderman Braithwaite? Alderman Nguyen? Alderman Wilson?
All right, H1, bed and breakfast license renewal for Stone Porch by the Lake at 300 Church Street, passes the Evanston City Council on a vote of 7-1. Thank you. Okay. Alderman Wilson, could you take us through reappointments?
Yes, appointments group 2 was a series of reappointments to the Library Board and one for the Preservation Commission. Of course, I'm going to have the same difficulty you have pronouncing names. Is it Sean Isles?
Sean Isles.
Sean Isles, Margaret Lurie, Vishali Patel, Benjamin Shapiro, all for the Library Board, and Ken Idle for Preservation Commission.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, Alderman Fleming.
Sorry. I requested this be taken off because I will not be voting. Well, I guess they're all together, but I oppose the Library Board reappointments. I know that, there's been some struggles with the Library Board, I'll say, and I was hopeful to see some new committee members selected there, so I will not be supporting the reappointment of these current board members. I will support the commission, Preservation Commission, but I'm assuming we vote in both all together, so.
No, divide it.
Oh, you want me to divide?
Yeah, we'll take those all together. We're going to take the vote.
Okay, so I'm going to move to divide these.
You're going to move to divide them from Library Board to Preservation, or each one individually?
Library Board together, Preservation Commission separate.
Okay. Is there any more conversation? Alderman Rainey.
Yes. Could we just have the explanation again as to why we vote on the Library Board? I mean, because we don't do anything else with the Library Board.
Your mayor.
City Manager?
I know.
Alderman Rainey, members of the council, the Library Board appointment process is governed through the Illinois state statute that authorizes the mayor to do that, and then mayoral appointments are confirmed by the city council.
And just so everyone knows, so because I put folks up for reappointment or I recommend people for appointment to committees, my basic rationale for appointments is that if someone has served a first term and they've done a good job, then they're entitled to serve a second term. That is the situation with the library board for Sean Isles and Vishali Patel. I do believe that, folks, if they're willing, should get two-term appointments twice to a board. I'm not personally keen on, in perpetuity having somebody on a board. I think it's important for our community to have new people on the board. If there are extenuating circumstances, in my opinion, if, that person is up to be, the president of the board, and needs a seventh year, and so therefore another term to do that, then I think that that's appropriate. In the case of Margaret Lurie, she has been on the board 2 terms. This would be her 3rd term, and my rationale for recommending the reappointment of Margaret is because, finances are so important right now to the city and to the library. She's in a very important position of helping with their fundraising. So for that reason, I think Margaret deserves a 3rd and final term on the library board.
Mayor Hagerty.
Yes, and Ben Shapiro, let me add, on Ben Shapiro, he's the same way. This would be 3rd, but he is the current president of the board, and so I want him to finish out that leadership.
My comment had nothing to do with who they were, but because we have no relationship with their budget or any, that's why
I understand. My comment really was I wanted the public to understand why I am recommending for reappointment, because Alderman Fleming said she's not supporting him, so I wanted people to understand my rationale for why I put them forward. That's all. Okay, seeing no more lights, we are going to divide these. So can I have a motion for the library board, and then we'll do another motion on the preservation?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
All right, two opposed. So the library board passes 6-2. Okay. Can I have a motion on the Preservation Commission? Kenneth Idle. Second.
Second.
God bless you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So Kenneth, Preservation Committee Idle moves forward on a vote of 8-0. Okay. All right. We are now going to go to call of the wards. This evening we'll start with Alderman Sufferton.
The 6th and 7th Ward joint ward meeting will be the evening of June 5th at the Ecology Center, 7:30.
Thank you. Alderman Ravel.
I guess I'm taking a point of personal privilege, I don't know quite what it would be, to say that I think it's premature to talk about deconstructing the Harley Clark Mansion. I believe we've been suggesting informally to the members of the Lake House and Gardens group that if they can, in the next year, come up with $1 million for us, we will want to talk with them further about entering into a lease. I think we need to give them a chance to test the waters with their vision.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Hagerty and members of the council, I request that the city manager assign staff to prepare a resolution for the council's consideration at the next council meeting that directs the manager to meet with the citizens represented by Nicole Kostek and Jeff Coney to begin the process that will result in the city's acceptance of their generous financial support, leading to the immediate restoration of the dunes to their natural state, to the removal of the house and the coach house, being Harley Clark, and the restoring of the key elements of Jensen's historic 1920s garden and integrating them into the natural landscape while clearing and expanding the parkland and beach for the enjoyment of all members of our city. It's time to move forward, and this offer is limited. Also, I have another reference, and that is I want to refer to the Rules Committee a referendum for the November ballot, that the binding referendum that the city clerk's position be an appointed position. Next, I want to refer to the Rules Committee that from now on, when we have outdoor cafe, a first-time cafe, that it be determined between our staff and the alderman of the ward. I don't know why it needs to come here. It seems like a waste. So the determination could be made by the staff and the alderman of the ward, but we can discuss that at the Rules Committee. And I'd like also to discuss the way we handle the Amazon budget or purchase issues at the Rules Committee. That's all.
All right, thank you, Alderman Rainey. Can I go around and just catch you on your call?
So it's just a point of clarification with Alderman Rainey's first part of your request. So I wasn't sure if that was a referral or just direction.
Oh, no, it was a request that the city manager, that our staff put together a resolution for our next council meeting for the council to consider.
I understand.
Not that we do it, that we just consider it.
Got
Not
it.
that we pass it or defeat it, but that we consider it, that it be on our agenda for our next meeting.
Okay.
Just to then consider it and send it to the city manager.
I understand.
For negotiation.
It shouldn't require a second. I just wanted to confirm that
No, it
with our
doesn't require a
because you're
second.
directing,
I'm
and then it would
sending
appear.
I'm sending it to our august body.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Rainey. I'll get. Is this related to the topic at hand, Clerk
Yes,
Reed?
yes.
All right, Clerk Reed.
Was that a motion that Alderman Rainey made about the?
No, she referred it, and a resolution's going to come at the next council meeting to this body. This body then can have a discussion about that resolution. So,
I have it in writing. I can send it to the city.
to the city manager, thank you. That'd be great. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Clerk Reed. Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, I would like to make a referral to Public Works that they generate a report, and this does not have to be like a very extensive report, but I would like to kind of know the top 10 capital improvement projects that city-owned facilities. So this can be top 10 based on, urgency. So we've talked tonight about the boiler and the AC and all that. I just would like to have a better idea of what we're looking at for future maintenance projects coming up. So I know that they had mentioned doing some 5-year plan, but this is not that extensive. Also, I would just like to make a couple of congratulations. So we have, if anybody follows high school sports, we have 2 ETHS students who placed first in track and field. So one is Jonathan Wilburn. He placed first in the triple jump. He's a senior, and I think he jumped like 40. I don't know what it was, but anyhow, it was important. He jumped very far, really far. But this is the first time the ETHS has taken first in that competition. And then also, just a personal pride, my little cousin Ava Michelin plays first in the 800. She's the fastest 800 runner in the state and also in the U.S. Track and Field Association. So we're super proud of her.
Yay.
But anyway, I thought that was great that we had 2, and all of our other sports teams did very well. And also we have a graduation coming, so I'm very proud of all of the Wildcats. But I wanted to give a special congratulations to those 2 placing number 1 in very hot conditions in Southern Illinois.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first ward meeting, June 5th, Tuesday, 7 to 9 at the library. You should have gotten your postcards in the mail. We'll be sending out an email notice as well. Please come and join us. We're going to be looking at 2 development issues, 1900 Sherman and 1621 Chicago Avenue, as well as our usual staff police reports, questions and answers, other good stuff. We've got 2 issues tonight that I want to raise. The city sent out a letter to residents. I got one, but in the area surrounding Northwestern University. The Fireman's Park neighborhood in the 5th Ward and my neighborhood in the 1st Ward absolutely went ballistic this weekend because with the announcement that Northwestern University according to the letter, can no longer financially support the dumpster program in the neighborhood that was put in years ago for move in, move out, and it was I think then just reduced to move out. But this is really important. This is as students leave, oftentimes if there's not a place to put their debris, it's piled on curbs and causes a problem for the permanent residents. So the dumpster program has been extremely useful. And yes, some residents do throw some stuff in there, but that has always been offered as a courtesy for all the other things that the permanent residents put up with for the year. So I am going to request that the mayor look at the so-called Good Neighbor Fund and see if there isn't some money in there that we can afford to pay for dumpsters for this beleaguered neighborhood. And literally in the past, there has been sofas on fire, trees get on fire. It's just not good, and we need to have this picked up. Now, according to the university, they're sending out people to go door to door as, I don't know, trying to talk to people about what they can do to help keep it clean. But it means that the neighborhood really has to add another thing to their list to supervise, and it's a lot to ask folks to do. So I would love to have the dumpsters there, even if it's only 5 or 6. Get them out there on the street so that the students can throw away their discarded furniture and whatever else they have, and keep the neighborhood as clean and picked up as possible. So anyone wants to see this letter, I'm happy to share that. The other thing that I want to point out is that according to the IEPA, as I understand it, when Northwestern built their new athletic training facility on the lakefront, as a result of that meeting, the university's expansion cannot go any further than the landfill that they were authorized to carve out from Lake Michigan. And that means that the Northwestern, what was the former Northwestern Beach, is now owned by the state of Illinois. And I would like to refer to our city staff to see if the city of Evanston can actually annex that property for public use and report back to us at the Planning and Development Committee where I think the matter should be. So those are my 2 points that I wanted to raise.
Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just as a follow-up to Alderman Fisk's request to look at the, what did you call it?
Good neighbor.
Yeah, well, so what I would offer, without making any promises, to maybe work with Advanced Disposal. I've had some very preliminary conversations about doing spring cleanups for the neighbors that are in close proximity. And maybe it may be a good opportunity with the help of our city staff to see if we can get a couple of dumpsters in there. I mean, I've been down there during move out, and it's just, I think, a reality that we have to grapple with, and I'm sure it exists with every college town. So if we can find a way to get it done without, any burden to the taxpayers, taking away from that Good Neighbor Fund, I hope that we would have the latitude to explore that with Advanced Disposal, because I would agree, it's needed. I know that for a fact. So in terms of my calls of support, thank you very much, Alderman Fleming. I also want to congratulate the Evanston Township class of 2018 and just take a little personal privilege to congratulate my son, Isaiah Braithwaite, who's going to be graduating this year. Really proud of his accomplishments. If you ever met him, he's a very studious and serious young man, and I just want to say to you publicly just how proud I am of you. That applause is for Isaiah. Hopefully what time is it? He may be asleep. The other, and I made this, I wasn't sure if it was a request, but I did make this statement, my concern about our budgeting process. And throughout, we're starting to see more residents come forward. And so I know, City Manager, we're going to have a discussion. I can't remember if it's our next council meeting, but one of the things that I would like to request and that we have it as something that we vote on, and it's not to usurp the whole process, because I think the process is one that we're going to gain a lot of information from, but I just have to be honest again, the number of residents that have come forward and that I've heard the concern regarding the youth outreach team as well as the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. I know there's going to be a long list of issues that we're going to grapple with, but I just think, just given the fact that it's now the summer and we understand over the last couple of years that we've done a relatively really good job based on the resources that we've had to maintain a level of safety. We've already had a number of shootings already this season, and I know from my conversation with our city manager that effective June 1st, our outreach staff is actually going to be switching their hours and spending more time as well around town, but in the downtown area, that it's just the wrong time to have our neighbors or our residents anxious about that. And so my request is, again, that our first opportunity, that I hope that when we discuss it, we can just vote to remove that off the list. I mean, the work that they do is essential to the safety of our town. I mean, I would even say, and even the economic development based on some of the youth activities downtown, and I just want to make sure that we can vote that off the list, as well as the Mayor's Summer Youth and Program. We're not going to take those away, so let's just deal with those, get them off the list, and if there's anyone else that feels strongly, I'm sure you can participate during the process. But I do feel very strongly about those two programs. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Wilson, or excuse me, Alderman Nguyen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to remind Third Ward residents that my office hours will be Thursday, June 7th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Brothers K at the corner of Hinman and Main. And actually anyone can stop by. So I welcome everyone. Thank you.
And I'll do the motion for executive session.
Hold for 1 second, yeah. City Manager had to read it.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I have some calendar issues for you. So today is the 29th of May. Next Monday is the 4th of June. The council has a Rules Committee meeting scheduled. We would schedule that for 6 p.m. I want to confirm that there will be a quorum available at 6 p.m. on the 4th. Okay, so we will go ahead and read rules at 6 p.m., have Human Services follow at 7 p.m. The following Monday, the 11th of June, would be a regular city council meeting. We have little to no items currently scheduled for the 11th. There was an item Alderman Rainey just referenced this evening for our next council meeting. We could have that, of course, available. There was one item tonight, the condominium regulations that was introduced. There are no other pending matters. So we also had been planning on coming back to you on the third Monday, the 18th, to talk budget, and also we have a presentation on some 311 research that we've done. So if we were to not have the meeting on the 11th, but go ahead and have the meeting on the 18th to talk about the budget, would that be acceptable for the council? Just have one meeting on the 18th. The survey deadline is the 7th. We would not have a final report to you ready for the 11th. Otherwise, we'd move everything to the 11th. But if it's all right with you, then we would just have a meeting on June the 18th and then a regular meeting on June 25th. I would also like, and not this evening, but over the next several days, to poll the council on your plans for July. We would have currently scheduled meetings for the 9th and 23rd. The council a few months ago indicated they would meet again on July 30th to talk about affordable housing. Just want to confirm those dates with you, so we'll do that. But unless something changes significantly in the next couple of days, we'll go ahead and not have a meeting on the 11th. Instead, have a meeting on the 18th, which would include the budget, the 311 presentation, and then the couple of items from tonight. Sure. The third Monday under your rules is a regular meeting. So But we would put the items on from this evening, so the condominium and the resolution regarding Harley Clark would be on then for the 18th. If that's acceptable, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we'll do that. If something changes for the 11th, we'll let you know right away, but we'll shoot then instead just for the 18th. Thank you.
And Wally, if it's not too much to ask, can I also add the request for the removal of the youth outreach workers as well as the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program be prioritized as an item that can be removed from the priority-based budgeting survey?
And we will have that on for the 18th. I mean, we're going to be asking the council. We're going to come back with recommendations for those things to remove, those things to continue studying, and quite honestly, we're going to have to add things, and so we'll have. I've been working with both the police chief and fire chief for reductions at police and fire. So we'll be talking actually next Monday, the 4th, about proposed reductions for the police department, and then we'll have some preliminary proposals for reductions at the fire department on June 18th. So, in order to make the dollar amounts we're making, especially given the community feedback we're getting to take things off, the staff is working on proposals and including police and fire. So again, we'll have details of the police programs on June 4th, and we'll have more details on the reductions proposed for fire on June 18th.
Great, thank you, Wally. Alderman Wilson, could you lead us into executive session?
And one thing I will mention, though, we do have the Housing Finance Workshop panel presentation tomorrow at 6:30 that our staff has wonderfully put together. Unfortunately, I'll be watching it on video later because of a personal conflict, but anybody who has the opportunity to either watch that or attend, I think it will be very informative for our inclusionary housing and affordable housing issues. Now, pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes, ILCS 120/2A, I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel and litigation. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, and C11. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Can we take the roll, please?
Alderman Sufferton? Yes. Alderman Ravel? Yes. Alderman Rainey? Alderman Fleming? Yes. Alderman Fisk? Yep. Alderman Braithwaite? Yes. Alderman Nguyen? Alderman Wilson?
Aye. All right, the Evanston City Council recess into executive session on a vote of 8-0. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and we'll see you at the next meeting.